This lesson corresponds with Roman numeral 2C in the significant figure notes, rounding significant figures. Sometimes numbers must be rounded to the proper number of significant figures because when scientists communicate their measurements, there needs to be a standardized way for telling how precise measurements and calculations are. When you're rounding, follow these simple steps. Number 1, starting with the first Sig Fig in the measurement, underline the number of digits that you need to round to. For this first example, you are to round to 4 Sig Figs. Underline the 3, 1, 4, 7, as each of these are significant. Second step, look at the number after the last underlined one. If it is 5 or higher, you will need to round up. If it is 4 or less, you will leave the answer as is. Back to our example, 7 was the last underlined number. The number after it is a 2. Since 2 is less than 5, the 7 will not be rounded up. Step 3, write your underlined number, rounding up the last digit if needed. 314.7. Because that 2 was less than 5, the 7 remains as a 7, and now we rounded this number to 4 significant figures. In the next example, letter B, we're going to underline 2 numbers. The zeros at the beginning are not significant, so the first one we underline is the 1. The 1 and 7 are both significant. We look at the 5 after the 7 to see if that 7 needs to be bumped up. 5 or higher bumps up the number, so the 7 is going to bump up to an 8. This time, when we rewrite it, we need to make sure to add any extra zeros if needed to keep your measurement with the right place value. The answer is 0.0018. Those zeros at the beginning are necessary because if we only wrote 18, it would significantly change the value of our answer. It's not 18, it's 0.0018. On this one, we only want one significant figure. In letter C, underline the 6. The 4 is not high enough to round up the 6, so we have 60. I have to put the 0 in the answer because of the fact that I don't have 6, I have 60, or 60, times 10 to the negative first. The times 10 to whatever power is going to also be a placeholder value, so I do have to bring it. Or I could change this by saying 10 to the negative first is going to be the same as moving my decimal 1 over to the left. So instead of 60 times 10 to the negative 1, I can simply just say 6. Try the next examples on your own. Pause this until you're finished. In letter D, you should underline the 8 and the 7. Recognize that the 9 is big enough to bump the 7 up to an 8, and that you needed those 2 zeros at the end so that you weren't just saying that 8,792 rounds to 88, it rounds to 8,800. In E, you underline the 7 and the 0. The 4 is not big enough to bump that 0 up, so you get the answer 70. What's wrong with this though? Well, 70 only shows one significant figure. Zeros at the end of the number when there's no decimal are not significant. Therefore, you can rewrite this as 7.0 times 10 to the first power. The point there shows that both the 7 and the 0 are significant, and the 10 to the first power helps us to maintain the correct place value.